Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Drums and Drams. My name's Cameron, and today we're gonna be taking a look at the Buffalo Trace Pre-Prohibition collection, a 5-bottle set of 375ml bottles, recently released by Buffalo Trace, I believe towards the end of 2023. Retail price is $1,000 for this set, although secondary is well above that. And before we get going, I wanna say thank you to Mr. Nick Jones, who's just off camera over here, for letting me take samples out of these bottles and do this review for all of you today. And last but not least, I do want to say thank you to the two random guys, whoever's building this is that I'm in, whatever room this is. Dan and Sean from the Bourbon Junkies, thanks guys for letting me film here. As we go through this, we're doing it unblind. I don't think it's really going to be worth blinding these things. I'll tell you about each bottle as we move along. Try to keep this quick. So let's start now with the Walnut Hill 90 proof bottle. This is a straight bourbon. I got my little cheat sheets behind the bottles here. It's straight bourbon, 90 proof. We don't know too much about these, to be honest with you. You can look up some more information on the interwebs, but let's get into this on the nose and see what we get here. All right, so all of these are Buffalo Trace products. You can expect honey sweetness kind of across the board, standard Buffalo Trace type profiles. This one at the 90 proof is actually very, very sweet, very inviting, pretty honeyed on this one. Light vanilla notes, sweet, bright caramels. It really just reminds me of like I'm smelling standard Buffalo Trace. It doesn't smell special necessarily. Maybe some remnants of like an Elmer Tea Lee or something. Let's go to the palate now. The palate on this 90 proofer Walnut Hill is actually way better than the nose for me. I mean, the nose is sweet, it's very, very soft, but the palate actually packs a little bit more of a punch for a 90 proofer. It is pretty darn grain forward though. Like it feels like young whiskey. I don't know exactly how old this stuff is. This to me is like a glorified Buffalo Trace. It's in the realm of Elmer Tea Lee, but it doesn't feel that special. Still very, very delicious. I'm gonna be hard on these bottles kind of across the board because the price tag, the limited edition status, all that kind of stuff. Walnut Hill, fine, good stuff, solid, nothing special. Let's move on now to the Three Feathers. And as we go through this, we're gonna go up in proof for every single bottle. So Three Feathers is now 100 proof. This is a blend of straight bourbons. And so let's check this out on the nose, see what we get. This is in a totally different territory. I feel like that first bottle is more of like the introduction to the profile of the series, right? Like it's a good place to start. If you're gonna drink these straight through, it's an inoffensive way to kind of get your palate warmed up. This Three Feathers actually smells more special on the nose. There's actually like some nice leather notes in here. It's got a little bit of a funkiness and definitely some aged qualities to this one. Yeah, I like the nose on this quite a bit. Let's go to the palate now. Oh yeah. Oh, this is a totally different story than the Walnut Hill. This feels like a really special whiskey. It's much more integrated with the profile across the board, much more aged feeling as well. There's almost a little hint of like this molasses thing kind of in the background. It combines with like a leather note. Again, more of like an aged oak kind of profile on this one. And overall, it just feels more cohesive, more integrated. I feel like the Walnut Hill was kind of all over the place. You were getting these grain notes over here, you're getting honey notes over here, and it feels kind of separated and disjunct, and that makes it feel young. This Three Feathers feels like very, very special Buffalo Trace whiskey, and it's only 100 proof. So for me so far, this is absolutely my favorite. I think this is fantastic stuff. So let's move on now to the Golden Wedding, and this is the only rye in the lineup. So it's coming in at 107 proof, and we're gonna check it out now on the nose. Dill, very herbal on this one. And I feel like with Buffalo Trace ryes, I don't always get a lot of dill, but there is some here reminiscent of an MGP rye. There's definitely kind of not a mintiness to this necessarily, but yeah, something a little bit herbal. Yeah, it smells good. I would say on the nose, Three Feathers is easily taking it between the two. Still my favorite on the nose. Let's go to the palate now on the Golden Wedding. So this is kind of like a mini Thomas H. Handy for me. I do like the palate on this quite a bit. You get these kind of like honey anise notes. So this combination of that standard Buffalo Trace honey, but then anise is really the note I think that comes to play, a little bit of that licoricey kind of thing on the palate. And that's what I know and love of the Thomas H. Handy profile. It's good stuff. I do like this. It's very, very good whiskey. I feel like this probably deserves to be in a limited collection like this. The Walnut Hill, again, I'm kind of like iffy on, and the Three Feathers, absolutely outstanding stuff. So far we're doing all right. I mean, as I go through this, we're talking about $1,000 collection of bottles that no one's ever gonna be able to find. My biggest thing at the end is like, is it worth for those who would spend $1,000 on something like this, is it worth hunting something like this down? Or is this just, whether it's a money grab or just a lot of hype for no reason or just a cool experiment, but not worth the money, trying to figure out kind of where these fall in the market. So on now to the Spiritus Frumenti on the nose. Wow, this smells good. This is a wheated straight bourbon, and this is coming in at 110 proof. So again, slowly moving up in proof. This thing smells amazing on the nose. Wow. All right, so this is kind of like a very, very rich caramel, chocolate notes going on in the glass. It still has some of like that leather quality that the Three Feathers had. So it's showing a lot of age as well. Yeah, this is, this smells very special. All right, here we go, cheers. That's the favorite. I mean, that's the favorite by a mile. Wow, what does that taste like? That tastes like BTAC level stuff. All right, Spiritus Frumenti is the real deal. So it's a wheater, so the closest comparison to this is probably gonna be like a William LaRue Weller at a slightly lower proof. This beats the crap out of Weller 107 or Weller Full Proof. This is in a league of its own. In fact, I would probably prefer this to some years of William LaRue Weller. It's so balanced at 110 proof. It's extremely sweet, but it shows great age. Very fruity on this one too. I mean, it still has all that honey richness and it shows that age, and it has a little bit of that molasses in the background, but there's a lot of fruit notes to this as well. I'm gonna be curious to see what the junkies say about this bottle. Which of these is their favorite? All right, on now to the final pour in this flight. This is the Old Stag coming in at 132.4 proof or 66.2% ABV. We're gonna check this out on the nose. This is a barrel proofer. It's got the name Stag on it. There's a lot of expectations around that name. Let's see what it's like on the nose. Here we go. All right, so this is darker fruit notes. This is kind of like a little bit of a plummy, grapey Buffalo Trace profile. And I feel like across the board, up to this point, there haven't been a lot of like super fruity whiskeys in this collection. I mean, the Spiritus Frumenti is probably the most. This actually leans into those Stag notes that we know today from George T. Stagg, from Stagg Jr., whereas the other ones, again, that brighter sweetness reminds me more of Weller products, more of like a Colonel Taylor barrel proof. This is dark and rich, as the name would suggest, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy that this kind of separates itself, not only with proof, but also with profile. Very spicy, as you would expect, but there's enough profile there to kind of back that up. The finish, as we're getting into it right now, for me, is more spice-driven than it is flavor-driven. I think that's okay. It does make it feel just a little overly hot on the finish as compared to like the palate and the nose. I thought were pretty nicely balanced. The spice on this is more of like what we talked about with Elijah Craig B524, like a chili pepper spice. Very, very peppery on the finish of this. I think it's really, really solid stuff. Is it, to memory, is it gonna be better than George T. Stagg 2018, 2017, like some of those bottles of the last 5 to 6 years? It'll be better than some. Like George T. Stagg 23, I think this should probably easily win out over that. 22, maybe. This doesn't carry the grassy note that the 22 did for me. But once you get before 2022, I don't know, this Old Stag would have some competition. Now it is $375, the entire collection, $1,000, you're paying $200 a bottle. Is the value there? Well, it's kind of crazy to answer that question, right? I don't think this is a value buy, but is it a good deal when you think about this being a $200 $375, which makes it a $400 full bottle? Maybe for the Old Stag, maybe for the Spiritus Frumenti, and maybe for the Three Feathers. My order on this would probably be Spiritus Frumenti in first. I don't know, Old Stag and Three Feathers, it might be a tie for second place. Those would be second and third for me. And then the Golden Wedding, I guess I'd put that in fourth. And I think the Walnut Hill I would put in last place. Does it really matter to rank a collection like this? I don't know. If I saw this at $1,000, would I buy it? I don't think so. I think there's good stuff in here, but I think your money can be better spent elsewhere with a full bottle of one thing that you know is really, really good. Of course, we could talk secondary. Some people don't like that, but I mean, certain batches of George T. Stagg are going for $750 on the secondary market, like the 2018. I'd rather probably have a full bottle of that than buying this collection, which again, this on secondary is like $2,500 at this point. So all in all, I think this is a really solid showing. I don't think it's overall spectacular. There are 3 standouts and 2 kind of bottles in here. And again, I'm gonna be curious to see what other folks say about this, particularly the junkies are gonna come in here and film next. But thank you to Nick Jones for letting me taste these whiskeys. This is a really cool experience. Let me know in the comment section if you've had the chance to try any of these bottles. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out the Patreon, $5, $10, $25, $50 a month. You can get into some barrel picks, you can get some exclusive content, all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys, thanks to the junkies for letting me film here. And I'm gonna wrap up with the pour of the Spiritus Frumenti. Cheers, and I'll see you next time here on Drums and Drams.